Globalists have been implementing a strategy in earnest for the past 4 years, if you haven't noticed, that includes peace treaties, international conflicts, digital currency, diseases, etc. It's almost like the billionaires, the UN, and the world governments are following a script. And they are. Jesus told the disciples about this script 2,000 years ago, and the disciples wrote it down for us in the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Revelation. So the wicked men of this world have put together schemes, never realizing that those schemes will be the fulfillment of prophecy. They're following a script. It's just not the one they think it is. And that script is going to end very badly for them. But it's going to end great for believers. Here's how the messenger angel described their fate in Revelation 6:15 through 17. Then the kings of the earth, and those are the politicians and the great ones, those are the billionaires, and the generals and the rich and the powerful, and everyone, slave and free, so there will be slavery at that time if you didn't notice, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the rocks and the mountains, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne, that's Jesus, and the wrath of a Lamb. For the great day of their wrath, that's the triune God, has come, and who can stand? That's the bad news for the globalists. The good news is for believers who are the ones who can stand. One chapter later in Revelation 7:9 through 10, we read, After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number from every nation, and all the tribes and peoples and languages standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. So that is how this ends for believers, raptured into heaven and with Jesus and God forever. But before that happens, the events that Jesus told us about will unfold with precision. Luke tells us that Peter, Andrew, James, and John met with Jesus privately on the Mount of Olives after Jesus had predicted the Jewish temple would be destroyed, and they asked what the signs of the end would be. These signs made their way into Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, but not into the Gospel of John, if you ever noticed. It's the only gospel that doesn't have this section. John recorded the same thing for us in Revelation 6. The same signs, but there the messenger angel told him that these same signs occur in response to Jesus opening a seven-sealed scroll in heaven. A scroll that, when it's fully opened, will result in the two outcomes we described above, punishment of the wicked and inheritance and reward for the saints. The angel told John the scroll was written on both sides. And that's what that seems to mean, that there will be two ultimate results. Reward for the saints, punishment for the wicked. In Revelation 10:8 through 10, the voice that I heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, Go, take the scroll that's open in the hand of the angel. See, the scroll is open, who is standing on the sea and the land. So I went to the angel and told him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, Take and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey. And I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. So it's sweet first, sour or bitter later. The sweetness in the mouth of John is the initial joy he felt seeing the reward of the saints, their inheritance, once the scroll was opened. We discussed this in a previous video about how the scroll is Jesus' last will and testament, and when it's opened, it's read to the saints, giving them their inheritance. The other side of the scroll, however, gets read too. This is what makes John's stomach bitter when he learns about the horrific punishment of God's wrath poured out on the wicked. So these signs that Jesus gave the disciples are a lot more than just signs. They are the reaction of Satan to Jesus opening that scroll with seven seals. Something Satan absolutely does not want to see happen. He doesn't want that scroll opened. And as Satan gets closer and closer to his defeat, he throws more and more difficult things at Jesus' beloved to try and stop Jesus' plan. Satan will use all those at his beck and call. The billionaires, the United Nations, the globalist government leaders, to implement these things on his behalf. And they are. They're implementing exactly what Jesus said was going to happen. Jesus said that the beginning of the birth pang events would happen, and under Satan's influence, the globalist powers are carrying this agenda out. They think it's their own agenda, but in reality, it's prophecy being fulfilled, the first 5 seals of Revelation. The first 4 even have a special name in Scripture. They're called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Do these seals coincide with the time we call the tribulation? That's a big question. And the answer is probably yes. Jesus called these signs the beginning of the birth pangs in Matthew 24:8. The phrase is an allusion to the pain a woman feels before the severe pain of labor sets in. As any woman who's been pregnant will tell you, these pains occur right before the birth, maybe a week or 2 before. They don't happen like in the 2nd month. So although many scholars will tell you that these events have been taking place for 2,000 years, that's biblically mistaken. Jesus told us they are birth pains that happen right before the birth, before the severe labor pains. And those pains are what we call the Great Tribulation. Not 2,000 years, but right before. My advisors and I believe that the period, the 70th week of Daniel or the tribulation, begins with the first of those seals being opened. Jesus opened the seal in heaven, and a horse came out, ridden by a demon. Here is how the Bible describes this event. Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice like thunder, "Come." And I looked, behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he came out conquering and to conquer. This is a heavenly event. Jesus is gradually opening the scroll that will bring about Satan's demise, and the rider of the horse is Satan's man, reacting to that opening of a seal. What are the symbols of this event? The horse is white, the rider has a bow with no arrows, wears a victor's crown, and the rider is conquering and will conquer. And how do these things match the agenda of the globalists? The globalists are certainly attempting to conquer the world and set up a global governance system. That is what the first seal is all about. But it is a non-military conquering. Notice the bow has no arrows with it. So let's take a look at those 3 symbols and see how the globalists will take over control of the world by looking at what the 3 symbols mean in the Bible. White can be a symbol of purity in the Bible, but it also is a symbol of deception and false peace. In Matthew 23:27, Jesus called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but inwardly are full of dead men's bones and uncleanness. And in Ezekiel 13:10, the color white is associated with a deceptive false peace. Here's what it says. They have misled my people, saying peace, when there is no peace. And because when people build a wall, these prophets smear it with whitewash. So the white horse isn't a war horse. It's a false peace horse, a horse of deception. A bow without arrows is an interesting symbol and first appears in the Bible as a rainbow in Genesis 9:13 through 16, a symbol of a covenant of peace between God and man, that God would never again destroy the world. So a bow without arrows is a symbol of a covenant of peace, probably a false worldwide peace covenant that Satan is using to mimic the true covenant that God made. And the specific crown the white horse rider wears is a laurel wreath crown. The Greek word is Stephanos, which is also, if you haven't noticed, a symbol of peace. Now, here's where a lot of people get the white horse rider wrong. They say things like, oh, it was the coronavirus because corona means crown and the rider wears a crown. It isn't that kind of crown, folks. It's a laurel wreath, victor's crown, or a crown of peace. And it just so happens to be part of a symbol of the United Nations. So put these three symbols together, and we have a deceptive false peace covenant brokered by the United Nations. Could this be the infamous covenant with the many of Daniel 9:27 that's going to launch the 70th week of Daniel or the tribulation? Well, nothing could probably be more fitting, and nothing is more desired by the globalists than this covenant, which allows them to take over. And those who follow this channel know the United Nations happens to be holding a summit for the future this fall, where they hope to draft a pact for the future, a pact with the many, all the nations of the world, coming together in a false peace covenant. It is also our opinion that they will incorporate a peace covenant between Israel and Palestine into that pact for the future, dividing the land of Israel. The very thing that Joel 3:2 warns us Jesus said he would punish the nations for upon his return. But the false peace, it's not going to last long. Because at the second seal, Revelation 6:3-4, peace is taken away from the whole world. Now I want you to think about something. Peace can't be taken away until it's established first. Right? When has the world ever been at peace that it could be taken away? So, here's what the seal says. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come." And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that the people should slay one another. And he was given a great sword. This is why those who say World War III is next on the agenda are mistaken. Peace has to come first, then war. This might be the opposite of what you think, but it's what the Bible says. Now, Jesus gives us more detail about what this war looks like in Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. What's important to understand about this war is the word nation, which the Greek is ethnos, meaning tribe, people group, or ethnic group. So there will be war between the Gentile ethnic groups. At the same time, there is war between kingdoms or alliances of nation states. Have the flood of immigrants across the national boundaries of Western nations set them up for just such warfare? Did the globalists instigate this? Of course, the answer is yes. They are also setting up a war between alliances of nations such as NATO and the BRICS alliance. Again, if you watch the news, this kind of stuff is hard to deny. The globalists seem to be getting ready to implement anyway, what Jesus prophesied. The impact of his warfare is explained in the second half of Matthew 24:7 that we read. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Again, God's prophecies being implemented by the globalists. With the rollout of digital currency and universal basic income, we can see how famines and economic crashes can be orchestrated. And at the third seal, we see a global price fixing of grain. I heard what sounded like a voice from among the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil or the wine. Revelation 6:6. This is a clear indication of price fixing, where the denarius, which once was a day's wages in the first century, is the equivalent of universal basic income today. And it only buys enough to buy a loaf of bread. So you will work all day and get a loaf of bread for it. What about pestilence? After 2020 and what the nations tried to enforce on the people of the world, do we really have to question what their agenda was then and what it will be in the future? Finally, what about earthquakes? Can globalists influence them? The Greek word is seismos, a great shaking, either natural or maybe man-made, such as a nuclear explosion. The fourth seal tells us who is behind all these things and what their agenda is. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Then the one sitting on it, the name of him was Death, and Hades followed with him, and authority was given to them over the fourth of the earth to kill with sword, with famine, and with plague, by the beasts of the earth. The agenda is depopulation with war, famine, and pestilence. But notice, it is by the beasts. The Greek word here is hypo, meaning under or under the authority. So it's under the authority of the beasts. What beasts? Maybe Daniel's 4 end-time beasts are behind this. Maybe the beast and the false prophet are behind this. We aren't really told, but it's probably one of those two choices. Finally, at the fifth seal, we see martyrs crying out from under the altar of sacrifice in heaven. So martyrdom for the word of God and the testimony of Jesus will also be something that's on this evil agenda of the globalists. How do we know that? Well, we have explained a number of times on this channel that these globalists, made up of billionaires, governments, and the United Nations, is called Mystery Babylon in the Bible. And in Revelation 17:6, this group is drunk on the blood of his saints. So we know these things are coming. And based on what we've seen in the last 4 years, the globalists are quickly implementing it. So what should you do as an individual? Because time may have already run out. The prudent thing is to get ready as Jesus commands us in Matthew 24:44. Be prepared financially, materially, by putting away supplies and food. And most importantly of all, be prepared spiritually to face these things. In fact, rather than preparing, the majority of churchgoers are being brainwashed instead to take the mark of the beast. Click right here to discover how that is happening in our own homes and churches, and how the globalists are behind that as well. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.